The U.S. Air Force's interest in a stealth flying wing arsenal plane designed specifically for air-to-air missions reflects a broader evolution in strategic thinking, especially as preparation intensifies for potential peer-level conflicts in the Indo-Pacific region. The concept isn't entirely new, but it is gaining fresh attention due to advances in missile technology, the increasing complexity of air combat environments, and limitations within current U.S. fighter aircraft fleets. The growing concern about missile capacity and the need to project force over vast distances without compromising survivability is a driving force behind this exploration. Fifth-generation fighters like the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Lightning II offer unmatched stealth, sensor fusion, and situational awareness, but they carry relatively few air-to-air missiles internally due to stealth constraints. Even when external hardpoints are used, increasing missile loads compromises stealth, undermining one of the aircraft's most significant advantages. In a high-threat environment, this limitation could place U.S. aircraft at a disadvantage, especially against adversaries fielding large numbers of fighters, sensors, and missiles. To address this, the Air Force is exploring how to increase the overall missile volume in the air without compromising survivability or drastically increasing cost. One of the emerging ideas is to create a specialized aircraft that acts as a flying missile magazine, what has been dubbed an arsenal plane. The role of this aircraft would be to stay at standoff range, receive targeting data from forward operating fighters, and then launch air-to-air missiles upon request. This would allow fighters to operate with stealth and agility while relying on another platform to deliver a high volume of long-range firepower. While previous ideas for arsenal planes focused on adapting cargo aircraft or older bombers for air-to-ground roles, the current thinking has shifted toward a stealthy flying wing design optimized for air-to-air roles. A stealth platform would be able to fly closer to contested airspace and remain survivable while still operating at safe distances. It could also be networked into broader battle management systems, receiving live updates, sharing data, and dynamically adjusting its missile delivery role based on the needs of fighter formations. The B-21 Raider, a next-generation stealth bomber currently undergoing flight testing, naturally enters this discussion. Built for penetrating heavily defended airspace, the B-21 features advanced stealth, long range, and a flying wing design that lends itself well to large internal payloads. Some Air Force leaders and analysts have floated the idea of creating an air-to-air variant of the B-21 to serve in this arsenal role. However, there are several trade-offs to consider. First, the B-21 is a strategic asset primarily designed for long-range strike missions. Diverting some of these aircraft to serve in a support role would reduce the number available for bombing missions, especially during a major conflict when every bomber would likely be needed. Additionally, the B-21 is a high-cost, high-complexity system. Using it as a missile truck could be viewed as inefficient, especially when simpler or cheaper alternatives might be developed to perform the same role without drawing from a limited bomber fleet. This leads to the consideration of either building a variant of the B-21 optimized for air-to-air tasks or creating an entirely new airframe. A stripped-down B-21-style airframe, possibly without full-spectrum sensors and crew support systems, could reduce production and operational costs while retaining stealth and payload capacity. Such an aircraft could be uncrewed or optionally piloted to provide flexibility and reduce operational risk. At the same time, the Air Force is deeply invested in its future air combat architecture, which includes the Next Generation Air Dominance (NGAD) program. NGAD envisions a family of systems centered around a sixth-generation fighter and accompanied by various uncrewed systems, often referred to as Collaborative Combat Aircraft (CCAs). These CCAs will operate alongside manned aircraft and be tailored to perform different roles, from surveillance and jamming to strike and air-to-air support. A dedicated arsenal plane could fit into this network, acting as a force multiplier by providing missile support to both manned fighters and CCAs. One of the reasons for increased interest in such a concept now is the changing nature of future air combat. Conflicts are expected to be fought across dispersed theaters, over longer ranges, and against adversaries that can contest U.S. air superiority with advanced aircraft, integrated air defense systems, and long-range missiles. In such an environment, having a high-volume, standoff missile delivery platform becomes not just useful but necessary. The ability to launch dozens of missiles from a stealthy aircraft located hundreds of miles away from the front lines gives the U.S. a strategic advantage. Missile technology itself is also evolving in ways that support this concept. The AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile is expected to offer significantly greater range and improved targeting capabilities compared to the legacy AIM-120M ROM. Larger, heavier missiles such as the air-launched derivative of the SM-6, currently known as AIM-174, could be carried in large numbers by a bomber-sized arsenal plane, enabling engagements at unprecedented distances. These missiles are too large to be carried by most fighters and would benefit from a larger, dedicated launch platform. Another factor is industrial capacity. The U.S. Air Force has plans to purchase at least 100 B-21s, but production will scale slowly, with estimates pointing to about 10 aircraft per year by the early 2030s. If the Air Force wants to pursue both a traditional bomber and an arsenal variant, it must address production limits. Creating a simpler, more mission-specific airframe would alleviate pressure on the B-21 production line while still delivering the required capability. There is also a discussion within the defense community about whether smaller, more expendable UCAVs could perform this mission. These platforms could carry a limited number of air-to-air missiles but be deployed in large numbers, making them harder to track and shoot down. They would be cheaper to produce and operate than a stealth bomber, though each would carry far fewer missiles. The trade-off between platform survivability, cost, and payload capacity is a central part of the ongoing analysis. In large-scale air campaigns, timing and volume matter. A handful of stealth fighters with limited missile capacity may find themselves outnumbered or unable to re-engage quickly after using their weapons. With an arsenal plane in the fight, they can rely on an immediate resupply of missiles without having to return to base. That capability is force-enhancing, increases persistence in contested airspace, and allows more flexible, extended missions. As of now, there is no fully defined program of record for a dedicated air-to-air arsenal plane. The Air Force continues to evaluate the idea through internal studies, wargaming, and analysis of emerging threats. The concept is gaining traction, however, especially as long-range air combat becomes increasingly central to military planning. Whether it takes the form of a modified B-21, a purpose-built stealth drone, or a mix of both, the idea aligns with evolving doctrine and the need for survivable, high-capacity support to frontline fighter operations. This direction reflects a clear intent to modernize and adapt to a rapidly changing threat environment. It's not about replacing fighters or bombers but complementing them with new systems that maximize their effectiveness and ensure the U.S. maintains a decisive edge in future air wars.